Good morning, everyone. Hopefully my sound is coming in clear. Thank you for introducing yourselves in the chat. I see we have several new users in the class. I'd like to say welcome. Perfect. Welcome to our new users and welcome back to our existing users. We're going to get started. So this is our CETEIS and training, our CETEIS training for our CPID admin and level 5 fiscal agent. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dewana McCreary, and I am your presenter for this morning's training session. In the chat, we also have Diana Terry. She's going to be monitoring our chat. She's here on behalf of PTD, and we like to say welcome to everyone and say good morning to Diana. We're going to go through some slides first. We're going to kind of lay out our agenda of today's meeting, and then we're going to head over to our knowledge base. Our knowledge base is where we have all of our resource documentation, our guides, our templates. We're going to show our new users where that information is if they don't know already. And then we're going to go into a demonstration where we are going to actually demonstrate the CETEIS application. And we'll do that. When we do that, we'll tell you, of course, we'll navigate and let you know when we're changing over our screen so we don't lose anyone. So first, we're going to go through this slide deck. And the first slide we're going to go through is our agenda. So as I stated, we're going to do the introduction. I have already introduced myself. Thank you all for introducing yourselves in the chat. The next thing we're going to go through is updates, things that happened over the summer. And there are a few updates, so we're going to go over those. Then we're going to go specifically into the level 5 fiscal agent fall task. And then after that, we're going to go into the CPID administrator fall task. So this training session is combined. We're going to be going over information for both level 5 fiscal agents as well as CPID administrator. In the beginning, the information is kind of similar in the sense that we're going to be recapping some of the collection periods and kind of giving an overview for our new users, just kind of giving them an idea of what the collection period is and what to expect. But then later on, we're going to specifically show a level 5 fiscal agent task when we get into our demonstration. So again, I'll let you know when all that happens. After we review all of our fall tasks, we're going to go into the looking ahead, and that's just to let you know of all of the collection periods that are coming up and to get preparation for the spring. We're going to let you know some of the spring dates that's coming up in 2025. So let's go ahead to our first, this will be our third slide now, and this is our updates. So that very first bullet points let you know that fall data entry submission is discontinued. In the past, if you're a new user, you may not know this, but in the past, during this time, we would be preparing for our fall data entry submission. And that would be when we had to enter in course and staff data. You had to at least have in one course with one staff by a specific deadline. And that is no longer required to be submitted to OCTE for review. So the information that we're going to go over today for fall data entry is to prepare you for the spring enrollment submission. And it's very important that you get all of your information in so that you're not overwhelmed towards the end of the year. So we would encourage you to get all of your fall data entry in, if that's new classes, if that's staff. Once you start getting into inputting your student data, we would encourage you to create a system and make sure that you're keeping up with that, because we don't no longer have to submit that information in the fall. Okay, so we're going to go over that information, show you some documentation. We're going to have going forward, this is our very first training. In the past, we used to start with our new user and then our fall data entry, but it was suggested this year that we start with our CPID administrators and our level 5 because they give access to people who are going to be using the CETEIS application. So with that, we're still going to go over fall data. So you may see in the training that there's fall data entry training coming up specifically for building reporters. So we're still going to go through all of the process like we would normally do, We're just not going to submit. So we would still encourage those same practices. So that's the first update. The next update is in our report section. We have a new report. That's the dynamic secondary taxonomy report has been added. This report gives logged in users access to the public facing secondary taxonomy data at the CPIT fiscal agency or operating building level. So the other version is still available, but that information is in the actual CETEIS application under building reports. And we'll probably get to that and show you where that information is. But if that report would be useful to you, you can now use that. The last information is our SIP codes. And we all know that the SIP codes, they transition from Perkins 4 to Perkins 5. So we have 10 SIP codes that have been transitioned from segments to competencies. And you're going to be able to find that information in our special collections section of our CETEIS knowledge base. So again, once we get to our knowledge base, I'm going to show you where all of that information is. It's all in the same, it's all housed in the same place. But just to let you know, that's the most recent update, the 10 SIP codes. I'm sorry, is it backwards? Okay, sorry. I do see that error. I apologize. It's Perkins 4 to Perkins 5. So I'll make that correction on the slide. Thank you. All right, so moving on to the level 5 fiscal agency authorized official task. So I kind of went over a little bit what's going to be coming forward. For a level 5 fiscal agent, again, I stated that the reason for us doing this training session first is because of managed new users. The level 5 fiscal agent is the one authorized to use the managed user screen in the CETEIS application. So if you have the managed users role, you will be able to add new users or edit existing users within CETEIS. So we're going to go over that in our demonstration. I said that this is a combined training for level 5 and CEPD administrators, but that is not a CEPD administrator task. This is a level 5 task. The next thing that we're going to do when we go into our demonstration, we'll show you some of the screens. You want to begin coordinating expenditure personnel. Again, we don't have to do the fall data entry. So our first collection period will be our expenditures. That would mean that you would have to, as fiscal agents, you would have to submit the expenditure report to the CEPD administrator. That's a level 5 fiscal agency authorized official role. The report is due to your CEPD administrator by November 7, 2024. So you want to start coordinating that information. We will have training for building reporters on how to enter in expenditure data. That registration is already open. So if you, excuse me, if you haven't encouraged your building reporters to sign up, that information is available on our knowledge base, and I'll show you where the training section is. But you want to sign up for training. You can attend the expenditure training as well, but that's the first actual collection period that we have for this fall period. And you also, the third bullet point is to begin coordinating your follow-up personnel. The follow-up process begins in October. What that means is that you're going to get a packet with all of the follow-up information in it. And that's going to be coming within the coming weeks. It will be the survey. It will be an instructional guide. There's memos from OCTE. There's information in there, everything you would need to conduct the actual follow-up survey. So we're going to have training for that for our building reporters, but this as a level 5 role, you just want to make sure that you're getting the personnel together who's going to be conducting that process. So make sure that all of that information, you're looking ahead to that information, you're contacting those people. And again, that information will be distributed within the coming weeks. 1 second. Okay, I see that there is someone who doesn't have sound. If they're following along on the PowerPoints, we will have this posted within a couple of hours. We're recording this session, so maybe you can check that out a little bit later. So we left off on the follow-up personnel. The fourth bullet is to begin coordinating your enrollment personnel. As I stated, there's no longer fall data entry submission, but you want to make the processes and make sure that all of the information is getting put into the system and instructional designs are created. All of that information is put in for the spring, and that's 2025. That's the enrollment and completion collection, because all of that information will be due. So you just want to create some kind of a process and make sure that you're getting all that information in. And then the last bullet is work-based learning and credential collection. Again, as you get the information, as you're putting in your courses and in your staff, you want to start working on your work-based learning as soon as it is possible to you. That might not be something that you can do, but if it is possible, you want to start entering that information in, as well as your credential information. So again, all of that is not due into the spring, but you want to make sure that all of that information is being put in. So as a level 5, this is the task that you should be kind of looking at, kind of moving forward in during the fall. Okay, so we're going to move on to the CEPD task. And as I stated, a lot of the information is the same as the level 5, but you're going to be doing this as a CEPD administrator. The assistance with the new user entries as well as permissions. Again, that is a level 5 task. If you have been given that permission to input new users, that information, like I said, is a level 5. But as a CEPD administrator, you may be able to assist with that information. But you may not actually have access to CETEIS. So that's one task. You want to begin coordinating, just as we stated, with the level 5, your expenditure personnel. The CEPD administrators will submit the expenditure report to OCTE November 14th. So you want to make sure that you keep that date in mind as we go through all of our expenditure process and our training. The CEPD administrators have to submit that report to OCTE November 14th. Then looking ahead, we're going to begin again the follow-up personnel. You want to make sure that you're coordinating your follow-up personnel, getting those people ready to receive that information. And again, those follow-up packets will be distributed within the coming weeks. And then begin coordinating that enrollment and assisting with the proper instructional designs. We're going to show in our knowledge base the instructional design templates for both Perkins 4 and Perkins 5. So you want to make sure that you're coordinating all of that information with your building reporters, that information is accessible to them. So you're just kind of helping out in a helping out role in the fall. And then the very last thing is to oversee the work-based learning and credential collection. So make sure that information is being submitted, or at least recorded in CETEIS, because again, we don't submit until the spring. But you want to make sure that if you have if your building reporters have that information is being entered in, so that it's not a big overload of information to be put into the system in the spring. So just kind of a reminder, again, for those who already know this information, just a refresher, but for our new users, this is just some of the suggested things that you should be doing in the fall. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to this knowledge base that I've been referring to kind of show you where our documentation is. A lot of the expenditure follow-up links will be found on the knowledge base. So I'm going to go on a brief pause and show you where the knowledge base can be found, and then I'll come back. So you'll just hear a brief pause for a moment, and I'll switch my screen over. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the screen and it is on the homepage of our knowledge base. As you can see here, it says our CETEIS knowledge base. You can, again, this is where all of our manuals, our training videos, our support material, and our documents, when we say our reference documents, that information can be found here. We're going to scroll down, helpful links here. This is our training information link. Again, as I stated, the training that we're going to be going forward is our, we're going to start with our, I believe it's our new user and then our fall data entry, but the registration and general information can be found by clicking that link. This here, let me share this tab, sorry. So it'll lead to this homepage here for registration and general information. If you want to sign up for a training session. So for building reporters, all of the training dates are here for new user, the fall data entry training, expenditures, the follow-up training. We have 4 dates there. And then going forward into 2025, we have our spring task training. That's when we do most of our enrollment information. And then we have our completing CETEIS enrollment collection. All of the training dates for 2025 are available there. In June, we have a completing spring enrollment e-workshop that allows people to come to drop in at your own time. We're available most of the day until about 4 o'clock, and we'll be able to answer questions. We're live with the help desk, so we'll be able to answer some of your technical questions that you may have if you experience those when you're inputting your data for the enrollment completion report that's due in the spring. So you may want to put a pin in that. And then the very last training for this year for our fiscal agent and our CEPD admin is in May. So if you are a CEPD administrator, the May 20th will be the CEPD options training. That's not something that we do in the fall. That's something that we do in the spring. So you might want to put a pin in this, but we'll have another fiscal agent CEPD administrator training in May. So all of the information that I'm going to give you today is a review, and it's kind of going forward into the spring because we won't meet again until that time. So just kind of keep these dates available if you want to transfer this information to the building reporters. Our spring training opens in January, so you'll be able to register for the spring task training as well as the completing enrollment collection training in January. But as of right now, the fall data entry, the expenditures, and follow-up, they can sign up for that. Or again, if you want to sign up, you can sign up for those trainings as well. You would click this link here. You will be navigated to our training registration and training info page, and then you can just select here, and it will have you fill out the information. So we're gonna go back home. That was our training. This here is just information. If you have not received your My Login for third party, you can click this link and it will tell you how to do the process to sign up for that. And you do need the My Login for third party for CETEIS access. So if you want to put in any data within CETEIS, you have to have a My Login for third party account. And that's for our new users. Hopefully that information is available. But if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll try to help as much as we can. But you do need to have that information in order to utilize the CETEIS system. This here is just if you have not received the OCTE schedule of due dates. We have a lot of the dates that I've put in the PowerPoint and as well as I've shared through some of the information already. But if you want all of the due dates provided by OCTE, you can download that by clicking this link here. The CETEIS user group meeting notes. These are the notes. Periodically, they have meetings with users and the notes are archived. So if you want to view that archive, you can do so by clicking this link and all of that information is available for you. Under the Explore documentation section, by clicking these links, you can find the enrollment information, the expenditures, importing templates, follow-up information, CPED administrator homepage with all of the documentation, the fiscal agent homepage. Again, the training portal, I've already shown that. But if you want to review documentation for CTEIS reports, you can find that here, and then newsletters when they're posted. So if you need all of that information, please click on these links and you'll be navigated to the homepage. And we'll do that in just a second. But you can click through all of this and it'll give you all of the documentation that I'm going to go over today. Again, going forward into the different collection periods, that information can be found here. As of right now, the expenditures documentation as well as the follow-up documentation has not been posted. So as we go forward within the next coming days, that expenditures links will be available as well as the follow-up links. We have to make sure that we get the updated information for follow-up because that information, again, that process starts in October. So once all of that information is available, it will be available in these links. So right now, if you click expenditures or follow-up, you may not have any open links, but that will be there within the next coming weeks. But as of right now, a CPED administrator and fiscal agent, all of the documentation that I'm going to go over can be found by clicking on these two links here. Just to scroll down, again, just an overabundance of reminders of our schedule of due dates. So this is all of the schedule that we had on our previous knowledge base. And again, this is on the OCTE calendar. This is just a duplication of that. And that's it on our home page. If you go over here to data entry, this is at the very top, and hit our data entry. This will be the data entry menu. Again, enrollments, expenditures, follow-up when we get into imports, and then my login for CTEIS if you haven't received that already. Down here at the bottom, or I would say the footer of the page, technical support. We always say that technical support is always available. If you find that you're in the application and you need technical help with the actual CTEIS application, please contact the help desk. You can do so by using this link, or you can also use the email as well as the toll-free number. That information can be found here. The support resources, we find that maybe as you're in the actual in the actual CTEIS application, if you need to sign up for training, it will just take you back to the training portal. Again, my login. If you haven't received that, it gives you instructions on how to sign up for my login. Again, current due dates. We can't say that enough, just to remind you of the upcoming due dates. And then this one I think is very helpful for new users. It's CTEIS terms and abbreviations. I'm going to open that and we're going to share this tab. This is just the CTEIS enrollment glossary. We usually present this in our new user training, but I think that it's helpful just in case you're in the application and you see codes that you're not really familiar with. So this kind of breaks down that information for you. Maybe it might be a little bit helpful, so that can be found in all of the footers on the pages. So just wanted to point that out. So we're going to go into enrollments here. And this is the enrollments homepage. Most of the information for, well, I would say all of the information for enrollments can be found on this page. Our new user information, when we go through our new user training, all of the documentation can be found by using this link. The fall enrollment task, all of the information can be found by using this link. When it's open, the spring enrollment as well as the CTEIS enrollment completion can be found by using these two links. So all of the documentation that you would need can be found here. So maybe that's information for your building reporter, so you can transfer that information over. In our general information section, again, the OCTE report due dates that can be downloaded by using this link. A PIC user's guide, that's for the staff, that'll let you know how to input staff information. And then directions for updating MSDS records within CTEIS. That information can be found here. Again, a lot of this information has just been ported over from our previous design on our CTEIS application. We just want to highlight to make sure that you all know that it's still here. Under special collections, as we go forward, all of the documentation here, managed credentials, the list of state approved credentials, work-based learning guides, the tracking sheets, we will not have, as CPED administrators, as well as level 5, we will not have any more training before the May 20th, formally specifically for fiscal agents and CPED administrators. So just know that this information is here. If you want to review this information to be able to assist with some of the input of that information. So work-based learning guide, credential guide, that stuff is not due for a while, but you can review the guides if you need help helping with that. Migrant student guide, if there are migrant students within a particular caseload, that information is here. Not everyone has migrant student, but the guide is there. And then moving down, our Perkins 4 and Perkins 5 instructional designs. So the Perkins 4 uses segments, and the instructional design forms can be here. Again, for the enrollment and completion collection, the information is not due, but you want to make sure that you have the proper instructional designs for your courses. So if it's courses that still use segments, you want to use a Perkins 4 instructional design. And going forward, if it's a Perkins 5, you want to use the one that uses competencies. Perkins 5 uses competencies, and this is all of the instructional designs, as well as the 10 zip codes that I mentioned earlier. They have been added here. So just as a demonstration, the Perkins 4 instructional design looks like this. This is the one that still uses segment, so you could put the segment information in here. This is a PDF. If you want to save this to your computer or print this, you can do that. But this is for a Perkins 4, again, to set up your instructional designs. A document that might be helpful is reporting credentials and competencies. This is going to link you to the Michigan.gov site. So this information might be helpful to you. So this is just a breakdown of reporting credentials and competencies. It's just a link that we thought was helpful. So that can be found under the special collections. And then just to give an example of a Perkins 5, which is an Excel document, we'll use this very first example here. So if you click on this, it's going to download an Excel file that looks like this, and it will give you an overview of the competency information for your selection, competency statements, a segment to competency crosswalk, and then an instructional design example is here. And then an instructional design form. So if you need to download this information, again, this can be found here within the Perkins 5 instructional designs. And this is all of the competencies that are available here. Okay, trying not to move too fast, but we're going to go now into our administrator homepage. So if you go up here, I see there's a question. As far as I know, that information. Thank you, Diana. Okay. So if you go here into the tab here, administrator, we're going to click that. And this is the administrator homepage. This is where all of the information for level 5, as well as CPED administrators. And then if you have a 61B fiscal role, that information can be found here under Administrator. So the first one we're going to click on to show you where the documentation is Fiscal Agents. And this just outlines the fiscal agent role, key points of the CETEIS system, and then official tasks. Again, user management, prep reporting, and then report submission. As we stated, the CETEIS process, the building reporter will submit the reports to the fiscal agent. The fiscal agent will then submit that report to the CEPD administrator, and then the CEPD administrator will submit that report to OCTE. And that's the process that happens for expenditures, it happens for follow-up, and then it's going to happen for enrollment and completion. Some useful resources for fiscal agents. This is basically where all of the information that you need here as a fiscal agent, as far as your documentation is concerned, can be found here. The CETEIS responsibilities of the FA is a very helpful guide, especially for our new users. This is a PDF that can be downloaded and printed. So this outlines specifically fiscal agent information. I would like to say there is a change as well to our support. As I stated, if you have technical assistance, you want to reach out to the CETEIS help desk for your technical assistance that's specific to the actual CETEIS application. If you have reporting policy questions, our new contact for specific reporting policies is Dr. Valerie Milton. Her email as well as her phone number can be found here. Specifically, if you're dealing with follow-up, your policy person from OCTE will be Dr. E, and her email as well as her phone number is here. And then you may find that information that you're looking for can be on the actual OCTE website. So we just put a link here for you to kind of navigate and find the information that you're looking for there. So this is just a index of all of the information. This basically outlines the level 5 fiscal agent role. It says the Office of Career and Technical Education, also known as OCTE, approves 2 fiscal agency level 5 authorized officials. It's also referred to as FAs from each fiscal agency district in Michigan. FAs are an integral part to the CETEIS submission process, which is completed using online CETEIS application. And they perform many unique tasks throughout the year. Those responsibilities are overseeing and reporting activities for the operating agencies and operating buildings within the fiscal agency district, granting reporting roles and system permissions to CETEIS users. That's what we refer to as managed users. And then reviewing CTE program data and submitting those reports to the correct CEPD administrator. So that's the overview of the role for the fiscal agent. We're going to go into later on in just a minute, we're going to go into our demonstration of how to give user permission using our managed user screen. But this here just gives information on how to do that. So the first here is just a timeline of events. Again, just trying to keep you in remembrance of all of the upcoming events throughout the year. So this is broken down by month. So for the month of September, this is what was on the PowerPoint slide. For the month of November, January, April, May, June. So if you want to put a pin in this, this was very helpful to kind of stay on task. And then this is just outlining how to use the managed user screen. All of this information can be helpful. We're going to do a demonstration, but this is the actual text information. So this just shows how to use the screens. When we move forward into the expenditure and follow-up data, this just shows that that information has to come through you, so that the building reporters will submit that report to you, and then you submit to the CEPD administrator. So that just shows that process there. Again, just highlighting information that we already stated for October, November. January, April, and then going forward into our spring tasks of May. So again, we have different tasks coming up within the spring after we do our follow-up. Our follow-up is the last task as far as the winter is concerned. So January, that's when follow-up data is due. But then we're moving right into April. So all of this information might be useful. Again, just keep an eye on this. We don't have a level 5 fiscal agent and a CPD administrator training again until May. So this is here for you to look at in the meantime. Using reports to verify data. If you're putting in the information and you want to review, especially during this time, if you want to use the instructional design reports to review past information that might be useful, this just kind of outlines some of that information here and where you can find it. As you get into the enrollment information in the spring, different reports that might be useful to troubleshoot some of the errors or things that may come up and they may be asked to you. Of course, that information is being inputted by the building reporter, but this is here for you as a reference just in case you have to assist. And then again, support is always available. If you have any technical questions, please feel free to reach out to the help desk. Okay, going back to our homepage for our fiscal agent, the training PowerPoint slides that we went over earlier, you can find those if you want to download those. Those can be found here. Manage users guide, again, it's in the actual guide that I stated. You can review that information, but there is a separate manage users guide, and that outlines the procedures for putting in users in CTEIS. Enrollment data review might be useful going forward when you want to review the enrollment information. That can be used here. So that link here is for that. There's enrollment and completion error resolution guides. Once building reporters start putting that information in, there may be maybe that information might be helpful for you as an assist to assist. So that error resolution guide is here. And then submission processes guide. The submission processes is very helpful because, again, as I stated, for all of the collection periods, they kind of work the same. So all of the submission information goes through the fiscal and then to the CPIT, but the screens pretty much look the same. If you use this document, it'll tell you how to navigate the screens, how to pick the selection that you want. So if you're picking enrollment or expenditures or follow-up, it's still going to kind of look the same when you're doing that review to submit. And this is just a document outlining that. So that was the submission processes guide. Another helpful thing is there are guides specifically for fiscal agents for expenditures as well as follow-up. And those links can be found here. Because we don't meet again before that information is due, thought that it was useful to put that information here so you can download those guides here and review the submission processes for expenditures as well as follow-up going forward. Okay, so we're going to go right into the CPID administrator documentation just to show you where that is. So as a CPD administrator, it kind of outlines that CPD administrators are part of the reporting process. 1 second as I switch over. 1 second. Okay. So this is the CPD administrator information. So useful resources, just like with the fiscal agent, there is a CETEIS responsibilities of the CPD. So to share this is a PDF that can be downloaded and used as reference for your CPD administrator duties. Again, just as we stated with the fiscal agent, over 50 career planning districts, career education planning districts, CPIDs, exist across the state of Michigan. CPID administrators are important to the submission process, which is completed using the CETEIS application. And the responsibilities include assisting the level 5 fiscal agency level 5 authorized officials, also known as FAs, with overseeing district reporting activities, selecting funding options, analyzing assessment reports, and reviewing the CTE program data. So again, as we stated with the follow-up as well as the expenditures, your job may be to help and assist fiscal agents with that information. So this guide kind of outlines the timeline of events by month. And then kind of broken down again, new users, follow-up, expenditures. So all of this information is available for the CPID administrator and just kind of outline in detail. Going forward, the reports that might be helpful for your winter task as you're doing your follow-up data review. There's reports that are available for some of the survey information that you may be or your building reporters may be conducting. So that information might be helpful here. And then moving into the enrollment information, just overseeing UIC and MSDS data review. And then, as I stated, the next time we meet as this fiscal agent and level 5 fiscal agent training, we'll go over the CPID options. So if you have a CPID options role, this information might be it will be very helpful because it tells you how to navigate the CETEIS option screen. We will demonstrate this in that training. So if if you want to review that information beforehand, it is here. But that information is covered in the spring training for CPID Administrator Level 5. Then we have our spring tasks, again, the enrollment data deadline, and then reports that might be useful for that. And then using reports to verify data. Different reports that might be useful depending on what it is that you're looking for. So for follow-up, there are certain reports that might be useful. And then shows you where to find that. For enrollment, there are reports that are useful. And then miscellaneous reports that might be useful. But we'll show where to find the reports in the actual CETEIS application. But this is just outlining course descriptions. I'm sorry, report descriptions. All right, so we showed all of the information for the guide here. We're going to go back to the CETEIS homepage. the CPED administrator homepage. And for CPED administrators, the PowerPoint link is here if you want to review the PowerPoint. Again, CPED options is something that's in the spring, but there's a guide here. If you want to review data, enrollment data with report descriptions, that link can be found here. The submission processes, just as I stated with the fiscal agent, that process is the same, but there's a document that outlines that information there. And then the expenditures and follow-up review guide for the CPIDs. So all of that information is there. I may not have mentioned for the fiscal agent, but once we post this recorded video of this training, it will be posted here as well as on the fiscal agent page. So if you want to go back and review this information at a later time, you can do that by using this link. Okay, so we're kind of getting through this information. Hopefully everyone is still with me and we're not losing anyone. We are now going to show, we're going to go back to our administrator homepage again, and then we're going to show our 61B fiscal information. And if you have the 61B expenditure monitoring role, there are some guides here that might be useful. So for expenditures, the 61B expenditure monitoring documentation. This is, again, a PDF that can be printed. This is information on how to access through using my login. And then it kind of outlines reviewing the 61B expenditure reports. Again, going forward, as we're going into expenditures, this might be information that might be helpful to you. So that is here. There's information regarding the 61B expenditure monitoring tool. Again, if you have the 61B fiscal ISD role, you'll have access to the 61B expenditure monitoring tool. So that information is outlined here. These letters here will kind of indicate what the lines on the actual worksheet mean. So this information is very helpful if you have that role. Again, you have to make sure that this is something that you're assigned to. And then there's a 61B security authorization form if that is needed by clicking this link, and you can download that security authorization form. It kind of just outlines how to request security authorization for that role. Okay, just to kind of give, again, we went through the training. Resources is the information that was found earlier, the user group, the newsletters, and then reports. The CETEIS reports are here going forward as you move into the enrollment and reviewing the data. This is just how to identify specific reports as well as the report descriptions. This tells you how to run the report once you identify a report that you want to view. There's also public reports that are available without login credentials by using the reports.cetis.com site. So if you want to look at CETIS public reports to review public report information, you can do so. But this here is a description. You actually have to review the reports at report.cetis.com. Dashboards, the CETIS district reports. So all of these links here are just kind of outlining if the report descriptions. Okay, so we're going to continue to go forward if no one has any questions on the documentation here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into our demonstrations. As I stated, we're going to demonstrate where how to log into the CETEIS application, as well as how to access the screens you will need to do manage users, as well as how to review data and submit data as both the level 5 and the CPID administrator. So if you, we're going to go on a brief pause for just a moment as I switch over my screen, so you won't hear any actual audio, but we're going to go to our training site. I'm going to drop the training site web address in our chat. If you want to follow along, you may be able to do so by putting that web address in and using your My Login credentials. It would allow you to play around in the training site without messing up your actual data. So if you have any trouble with that, again, just drop a question in the chat if you're having trouble locating, or if you're having trouble logging in. But we're going to navigate over to our training demo, and then we'll go from there. So just give me 1 second to change my screen over. I'm going to go on a brief pause. Okay, we're back. And this is the training site, the CETIS training site. This orange bar is just for our training site. When you're in the actual CETIS application, it doesn't have this orange information. We wanted to indicate that this was a training site, so that's why that orange bar is there. But everything else should look similar. This is the home page of the training site, and again, it mirrors the actual CETIS application. When you're in there, you should be able to see the Explore Documentation section. This will just link you back to the knowledge base to be helpful, to help you find guides. If you find information that you need clarification on, you can go down here, click one of these links, and be navigated back to the knowledge base if you need to do that. Down the right-hand panel, again, just all of the due dates that are available through from the OCTE calendar. So that information will be updated soon. It should be updated in the actual CETIS application, but this one here, because it's a training site, it has all of the old due dates. So again, the actual dates should be accurate in the actual CTEIS application, but this is a training site. So this information is here. Then if you go up here, because I'm doing training for the level 5 fiscal agent as well as the CPID administrator, I've been granted CPID administrator permissions. So this says admin and then reports. So if we click on admin here, as you can see, for this demonstration purpose, I have the fiscal agent monitoring permissions as well as the CPID admin permissions. I'm going to be under the fiscal agent monitoring section here. And so for today, we will kind of briefly go over the enrollment submission. I have been mentioning that, but the enrollment collection submission that's due in the spring, this is the screen that you would use to submit that information as a fiscal agent to the CPID administrator, again, for the expenditures and then for follow-up. So as a fiscal agent, if you have the permissions, it will be all listed under this heading, Fiscal Agent Monitoring. Again, because I have permissions for both the fiscal agent and the CPID, that's why I have both. You may not have this information here in the center. If you look all the way over to the far right, it says Manage Users, and this is the Manage Users screen. This is the one that we want to click. So for the demonstration for managed users, if you have the managed users role, this is the screen that you would see. Again, to manage users, you can review, add, or edit existing users in the system. So for this demonstration, we're going to select our district. For you in the actual application, when you select this, this is going to be filled with districts that you are allowed access to. Okay, so for instance, Avondale, Berkeley, Birmingham, Breckenridge, and Clawson. If I was a user, I have access to all of these districts. So there may be user information within all of these fields here. For the demonstration, I'm going to click the Breckenridge. And then the next field here is asking me to select a role. So if I click on this drop-down tab, I see that the options are all users, funding, expenditures, programs, follow-up, level 2, and then level 4. So this is, again, the information that I have access to. And if I'm working in the Breckenridge Community Schools, I can pick all users and view all of the users within that district. If I want to pick those who are only or if I'm assigning only a funding role, I will then select the funding, expenditures, and so on. If you want to review existing users, again, you can select all users and then it will pull everyone up. But if you want to specify, you can use these options here. So for demonstration purposes, this information is not actual information. This is information used for training purposes and for my demonstration. But as you can see, by clicking the all users, these are the users that are within my Breckenridge Community Schools access. It shows the name, the title, the phone number, the My Login, access information, and then whether or not it's active. If you want to search for an existing user, you can do so by typing in these fields here. So if you want to start typing in a name, CTEIS should generate that information if it's in the system. Same thing for title or phone number. If you were ever going to use that to kind of narrow down your information, you can type in these fields. You can also use the arrows at the top of the column headers to kind of sort that information, or to sort if you have a large data list. You can use that to sort to look for specific users. So down here in this next panel here, As you can see, these here have asterisks next to them. These are the fields that you have to fill in to create a new user, as well as the email over here. So you need a first name, a last name, a My Login ID, and an email. You do not have to put in a title to create a record, but using a title might be useful. As you can see here in the panel, it shows that this particular user is the business manager, or this particular user is the principal. So that might be useful to put that information in here, as well as a telephone number. If you want to just come here and look for telephone numbers, if you need to reach or contact, you can do that. So putting in that information might be useful, but it's not needed for an actual record. The next panel shows the level. Again, for my access, this is the levels that I can grant. So I can grant level 1 access, level 2, level 3, level 4. And it gives us our note here for level 5. The modules that we can select, as I stated, if we're looking for specific roles here, we can do so by using the drop-down menu for existing users. Here, if you're creating a new one, you want to assign them to a specific module. So if the user is going to have enrollment and funding, you can make that selection by clicking the box. If the user is just going to have expenditures, you can use that selection. Or if they're just going to have follow-up, you can use that selection. And then the very last panel shows the available buildings. Because I picked the Breckenridge, this is the only available building that I have. When you're in the actual application, there may be several buildings here. You want to identify the correct building. So I'm going to do a demonstration on a new user. I'm going to put in a name here and fill out these fields, and then select the building and submit that information. So I'm going to do that now. 1 second. Okay, and then I'm going to select a level. And then I'm going to select the module that they're going to be granted access for. So we're just going to do all 3 here. So this particular user can do enrollment and funding, they can do expenditures, and they can do follow-up. So when the follow-up collection comes around, this person can do follow-up information. When expenditures roll around, this person has access to expenditure information. Down here, I'm going to select the building. And once you click this arrow here, it's going to automatically go to assign buildings. And then as you see here, the only option I have is to add user. All right, so I've used this before. 1 second. So as you can see, there's an error here. A user with CTEIS 2222 already exists. That's under my login ID. So you want to make sure that you're putting in the correct information, or CTEIS is going to kick an error. So let's try to attempt to do another. I'll clear those out, make sure I verify my information. And as you can see, CTEIS user successfully updated. So I just gave permissions to this particular individual. Again, this is not real data, but first name, last name, the title of principal, the email, the my login access information. So when that person goes to, excuse me, log in, it's going to identify that my login information and grant this particular permissions. So they can do that for all of the modules that are selected here. So now that that record has been successfully added, I should be able to locate that record here in the above panel. And as you can see, that's the entry that I just put in here. So F name, L name, principal, the information, and it shows that it's active. If for whatever reason I need to deactivate, that's the selection that I could put here. So that would mean that the information is deactivated, but I don't have an example of a deactivated here in this particular demonstration. All of these are active right now. But that it deactivate, if you need to go in and do that, you can use that feature. Or if you want to go in and update user, if you need to go in and change some of the module information or change permissions, you can go in and make those selection and then update user. If you need to change core information, the title or the email, that information, you can then hit the update user and it'll update that record. So for instance, if I want to edit existing users, I can select by clicking the icon here, and it shows all of the information for that particular user. I can go in and make changes and then hit the update user. If there were other selections of available buildings, I can make that selection by clicking the available buildings here. But for this demonstration, I only have access to the one building. If you find that you're in here and you're putting in information that you don't want to save, you can clear form and start over. But this is pretty user-friendly, pretty straightforward information. You want to make sure that you have this, the correct district as well as the correct role. And you want to make sure that the information is accurate, so that you're putting in the correct information, because again, you can kick an error. So this is information that you may have done already. For our new users, this might be information that you're going to do if you have to grant access, because that is done by a level 5 fiscal agent if you have that role. So this is the process that you would do for managed users. This is called managed users. Okay, if we have no questions on the managed user section, again, there is documentation on the knowledge base, the managed user guide. If you go back to that fiscal agent page, all of the information that I went through here can be found on there. So if you want to review, please do that. If you have any questions going forward, technical questions, please reach out to the help desk. All right, so back to the fiscal agent monitoring. This is all of the permissions that I have. We just did manage users. When it's time to go, let's do expenditures. We will try to keep this in order. So expenditures, we'll show the expenditure screen. So here, again, we talked about expenditures for we talked about expenditures for a minute. So we know that the expenditure report collects the amount of state and other funds spent on supporting state-approved CTE programs. So again, the expenditures guide for the fiscal agent is on the knowledge base, and it goes through step by step on how to use this screen. So you want to go in and select a district. For my demonstrations, I'm going to be using the Breckenridge Community Schools. And then this is going to generate a worksheet. And this here, once the building reporter submits the information, again, we're going to have the training for the building reporters to enter in expenditure information within the coming weeks. The information that the building reporter submits is then generated within this worksheet. This information is old because, again, this is from the previous year. So this information hasn't been rolled forward. But as we go forward for our building reporter training, that information will be rolled forward, and I will actually go through a demonstration on how to input expenditure information. But this here, as a fiscal agent, you can review this worksheet, and it tells you the funds received, total expenditures, that bottom line here. So the total 6181 funds received, the total required expenditures. You want to review this information before you submit to the CEPD administrator. So it gives the function codes, the object codes, and it kind of outlines all of the funds that the building reporter put in for these particular function codes, the programs here, or the expenditures. I'll say the expenditures. Sorry, the expenditures. All of the lists of the expenditures here. There's a function code for specific expenditures, and this one is a CTE instruction, and then it has an object code. But all of that information is here that the building reporter put in. And I can review that information and compare it to my notes if I have that information, and make sure that that information is accurate. That you can also print out this information if you want to review offline. So once I have reviewed this information, and this information is accurate to my knowledge, I can go back in here, and then we're going to go to expenditures review by building. So once I've made my review of the worksheet, I can then go in. Again, this hasn't been rolled forward for this particular demonstration, but I would go in and select the Breckenridge Community Schools and the year, and then the buildings that have been submitted with the expenditure information would show up on this screen. I'm able to export this information if I want to review the information offline. Whenever you see export to Excel, that allows you to export the documentation from CTEIS, or the data from CTEIS, and you can review that information offline. So that might be useful if you want to review that before submission to the CEPD administrator. So once I have all of that, it'll show the function object code, the different funds for the 61A1, the 61B, if it applies, and then the total, and it will show it by building. And then I can make the selections as that's open. If I want to select by PSN, or if I want to select by specific building, I can do that once that's that information is entered into the system. But once you have that information in, then or you've reviewed that information, you could review to send to the CEPD. Because again, this hasn't been rolled forward, that demonstration I can't show you, but that information is in the expenditure guide. The screenshots are there, and the submission process works the same. You would go through and review, and then you would submit, and then it would show a submission status. The same would work. It would work the same way for the district follow-up as far as the submission. Once the building reporter has submitted that follow-up information to you. So for follow-up, we know that for fiscal agents each year, there is a follow-up survey conducted to receive, for the agencies, the fiscal agencies that receive state funding that assists with the operation of the CTE programs. So they have to report follow-up data related to any students who have achieved concentrator status within those programs. So because we do the follow-up every year, the building reporter will conduct the actual, or the building reporter will input the data, but the actual survey, we're going to go through how to go through the survey, but you might have the personnel that conducts the survey. The building reporter will then put in the information into CTEIS from the survey results. And then as the fiscal agent, you're going to take that survey result and submit to the CEPD administrator. So as you can see, for this particular building, this Breckenridge Community Schools, for the building name, Breckenridge High School, this has already been moved forward. So at the building status, there's an X. At the fiscal status, there's an X. And then at the CEPD status, there's an X. I can view this information by hitting the view, and the information will then come down here. As you can see, for this particular program, the agricultural operations and related sciences, there were 14 completed surveys, no self-surveys, and then some were completed non-compliance, given a total of 23 and 100% completed. There were 4 proxy surveys, and then there's a proxy percentage. So of the surveys that were taken, these are all of the totals for this particular program for the Breckenridge Community Schools. And again, we'll go through this in detail in our follow-up training, but just as a fiscal agent, you can view this screen before you submit to the CPID administrator. Once the information has been reviewed by you, the fiscal agent, you can then hit the submit button, submit for review button, and then it will be transferred to the CPID administrator. And again, this process works again for the enrollment, just the submission portion. Of course, pretending on the data is pertaining to the specific collection period, but the actual submission screen is similar for all of the collection periods. So for enrollment completion collection, you can select the year. This is in the spring for enrollment. If it's going to load for me, may not load. Oh, it did. Okay, so you can view issues. You can generate a report or generate a student report. It shows the, try to keep this here. The fiscal agency name, the operating agency number, and then the operating agency name, the building number, and then the building name. So this, as a fiscal agent, I have access to all of these that are here because this is here. Once I logged in, I have access to 6 buildings, and I can review this information. So if I want to view issues within a particular building, selecting the view issues button here will then generate the report down here at the bottom. So if there was anything that was an issue, it will it would appear here. But because this is, again, past information from the year before, it shows that the validation passes. But if there were errors, they will be here. And going forward, as I stated with the enrollment completion information, if you go through the enrollment submission guides and through the error resolution guides, if there are errors that you receive in your data, it will come up here, but you can troubleshoot those errors by looking at those guides. So back on the fiscal agent page on the knowledge base, there are helpful guides that can really be useful when you're doing the enrollment information. So again, only going through this information because, again, we meet, we don't have another training until May, but we will go through this submission for the spring information closer to that time. So in May, we will go through how to submit as a fiscal agent and how to submit as a CPID administrator. But if you want to just get a jump start and kind of review this information, this is the screens that you will be using. Okay, so we're going to move on to the CPID administrator, and we're just about done. That's why we didn't have a break. We were going to just go ahead and kind of push through. So we'll be finishing up in just a second. Again, because this is the fall training, the CPID administrator, all of the information that you will be doing is more on a review level. So if you're going in, you have the CPID administrator section. As a CPID administrator, this is the screens that I'm allowed access to. So just as we demonstrated with the enrollment collection for the fiscal agent, this is for the CPID administrator. You can go in and select your year, and then all of the enrollments information will appear in this panel for the year selected. You have to make sure that you're looking at the right information, because here as a CPID, there's 53 buildings that I have on my caseload here. So I can review issues for, let's see if we can, specific fiscal agency names and specific operating buildings. Or operating agencies names is as this here, and then the building codes are here. So for this Breckenridge Community Schools that I've been working in, it shows that this information has been submitted. Again, this is past year's data. So it shows that I have already submitted the report at the building level, at the fiscal level, and then it's already been submitted to OCTE by the CEPD. So for all of these other buildings, these buildings have not been submitted to me at the building level, or there will be a next year. So you want to go through and review. If you have 53 buildings in your case, you're responsible for reviewing the 53 buildings here. So that's why we encourage you to do as much as you can as early as possible, so that you're not overwhelmed at the end for the enrollments. If you want to review a building enrollments report, you can do so by clicking this link, and it will generate a report for you. So you can specify the report if you want enrollment counts by program, or you want enrollment counts by building. You can do that. As you see, it gives me my CEPD number. I can use this going forward. We'll again go over this information in the May training. But if you want to get a head start and just kind of look through this information, you can do so. And if you're on the training site, you can kind of play in here with your My Login, so you can kind of go through this information. So that was as a CEPD admin. That was the enrollment collection review. For expenditures, again, you want to select the district. We've been using the Breckenridge Community Schools, and this is that worksheet that we showed at the fiscal level. You can review the same information as a CEPD administrator, and it kind of outlines all of the function codes, the object codes, and then the totals here. It gives you an overview here, the 61A1 funds received, the total expenditures here, and then the fiscal agency-wide totals here. It shows you here the total 61A1 funds expended in program object codes met or exceeded 90%. So all of this information can be reviewed at the CEPD level here before you submit to OCTE. If you want to print this for your records, you can print that. So once the building reporter sends it to the fiscal agent, and then this fiscal agent sends it to you, you can review that information here. And we will have training specifically on how to input expenditure data for building reporters. If you want to sit in on that training to see how that process works, you're more than welcome to do so. Once you have reviewed the worksheet, you're then going to go to expenditures review by building, and then select your district. Again, we're going to Breckenridge. And then as you can see here, the Breckenridge Community Schools, the building status that's been submitted by the building reporter and then submitted by the fiscal. I submitted that information, or this is a CEPD. So the fiscal agent submitted to the CEPD, and then as the CEPD, I have already submitted that information to OCTE for review. So again, for expenditures, the information here would be filled in with that information if it was available, but this is a demonstration, so that information isn't in here. We'll cover that information at a later date, but it is in the expenditure guide for the CEPD administrators on the knowledge base, and you can see step by step that information in the guide. And then for follow-up, once the building reporters have completed the follow-up process, they're going to submit to the fiscal agent, And then as the CPED administrator, once they submit that information, you'll be able to see it here. So you'll be able to view the report information here. So again, it shows how many surveys were completed, how many were self-surveys, total proxy surveys, and for that particular program. So then once you've reviewed that information, if you want to export that information to an Excel document to view at a later time, you can do that, or review offline, you can do that. So anytime you see this export button, it's going to export that information offline so you can review. But if the information is accurate and you reviewed it, you'll have the option to send that to OCTE. It'll say submit for review, and then you can select that button, and then it will send it to OCTE. So it's pretty, as I stated, the process for all three collection periods when you're trying to submit as a CPED administrator to OCTE are very similar. It's pretty straightforward. The buttons there, it's very user friendly. You can just submit that information on. But it is in the guides if you want to review that information. Going back to the knowledge base, we were back in the administrator tab here. So for the fiscal agents, you can use the links here. And there's a submission processes guide that'll show you the submission processes, the expenditure report review and submission guide, and then the follow-up review guide. This is for fiscal agents. And then this is for the CPED administrator. So those guides are available. Like I said, pretty straightforward. And then the very last, if you have the 61B fiscal role, there are some information here for expenditure monitoring. 61B expenditure monitoring, it shows you how to review your information for expenditures. Again, this is the knowledge base. All of the information can be found that we're going to we're going to cover in training sessions coming forward can be found here under the Explore documentation. If you want to go back to the enrollment, you can find all of the Perkins 4 and Perkins 5 instructional designs. You can find all of the special collections if you want to assist with credentials or work-based learning. All of those guides are here. Again, we're going to cover all of this information for building reporters in the upcoming training, but all of the information is here so that you'll know where that information is when we have that training. As we go forward, all of the information will be added as that information is updated. Imports, I don't know if I showed this screen, but these are the import templates. So you can manually enter in data into CTEIS, or you can import information into CTEIS. And these are the file formats for importing both courses and students. So again, this is a building reporter task, but if you want to know that this information is here to transfer this information on, it is here. And these guides here outline how to do that, as well as the templates. So this is a course Excel file import template, and then this is a student import template. And then if you have to have access for my login, this is the my login instructions. Just clicking this link takes you to the actual it will take you to the actual my login for third party. It's the third party site, and it'll take you through a verification process. I see there's a question in the chat. If you're under data entry and you're under expenditures, that stuff has not been added yet. In the imports page, let's see here. Okay, we got to make sure that that is, thank you for pointing that out. I will make sure that that error is Fixed. Okay, thank you. Yep, we'll make sure to update that. Yep, ASAP. Okay, we'll take care of that. Thank you. So yeah, once we fix those links, that information will be there, and you can use those as templates. Again, as we stated with the reports, all of the reports, these are just descriptions. You have to actually access reports. If you're looking for public reports, those reports are available at reports.cetis.com. If you want to access actual reports within the CETIS system that you need access for, that's in the actual CETIS application, which is here and under reports. So if you're logged in, you'll go under reports and you'll go under building reports, or there is building exports, funding reports, follow-up reports. There's several reports here. So we're going to go under building reports. And this one has all of the reports that you can view. Class student list report, if you find that useful. Again, a lot of this will be more useful at the building reporter level. But if you want to provide assistance, again, that information can be viewed by you. If you're going to, we're going to head down here to program and course reports. If you want to review, especially for enrollments, if you want to review instructional designs, this 3-year instructional design report might be very useful in helping assist the instructional designs for courses and laying out that information to be put into the system for enrollments. So that 3-year instructional design report will give you the information for the last 3 years. So that might be helpful. If you want to view the student advancement export, once the student information is put in, again, this is going forward. Once that information is being put into the system by the building reporters, this is an export. An export is an Excel export that will allow you to review that information in an Excel document. If you want to review the completer assessment summary, this will give you completion totals for the current school year. Again, this is going forward. This is something that may not be in the system right now, of course. And then if you have migrant students, again, at the building reporter level, if migrant students are on your caseload, you can use this report to identify those migrant students in your caseload. Going forward in the spring, UIC with no current MSDS, bad UIC by building. Those might be helpful in identifying errors that may come up in your record. And you might need to review that information for the deadline in May. So all of these reports, again, can be accessed by going to reports and then building reports. So it's broken up by audit reports. The center is program and student reports. And then the very last panel is program and course reports. Okay, so we're going to go back here. And back to our PowerPoint slides. We went through all of the information that we stated here. We are going to go to looking ahead. As I stated, we're going to be going through our training sessions. We have our upcoming training next week is new user as well as fall data entry. So we're going to go through new user information, breaking down all of the foundational information for CETIS, as well as all of the guides, where all of the guides are for building reporters. So those that training starts on next week, as well as fall data entry training. Again, just to reiterate, because there's no fall data entry submission, we encourage all of the information to be put in as soon as possible. So all of your course information as soon as possible, all of your student information as soon as possible, work-based learning and credentials as you're able to put that in. You want to make sure that you're inputting that information in as soon as possible. So the first report that's due for the fall is the expenditure report, and it's due to the CEPD administrator on November 7th. And then the CEPD administrator will submit to OCTE by November 14th. The next report that's due is the follow-up report. As we stated, every year there is a follow-up report that surveys concentrators that have left school. They have achieved concentrator status within specific programs. So those lists, as well as the follow-up packets, will be coming out in the coming weeks so that that process can get started. And then the actual training, we will actually have training on how to go through the actual follow-up packet, identifying all of the survey questions, as well as how to input survey data into CETEIS, because you have to actually record all of the survey information. So we'll have that training coming forward in the upcoming weeks. So if you haven't signed up for follow-up report training, please do so. But that follow-up report is due to the CEPD January 16th. So it's a little bit of a process, but it's due the beginning of January 16th to the CEPD, and then the CEPD administrator will submit that information to OCTE January 23rd. Then we move into our spring enrollment training, and that spring enrollment training begins in March. So again, we have our spring task training, but those training sessions do not open until January. So you can't register for those right now. But we have our spring task training where we outline all of the information that you need to start getting ready for the enrollment report that's due in June. And then we have an actual enrollment and completion training. So there's a task training, and then there's an enrollment and completion training that's a little more in-depth, and it covers work-based learning and credentials, and make sure that you're putting all of that information in the system before the due date. As I stated, some of those reports for the MSDS would be helpful for the CETEIS MSDS match dates. And that year, the date is by May 9th. So if there are students within the system that have any errors, you want to make sure that you're highlighting the errors. That's why we say to continue to review your information as much as possible. There is a match date by May 9th, so you want to keep that in mind. There will be information that comes out that kind of reminds and just keep an eye on the calendar, but that's by May 9th. And then we will have another CEPD admin fiscal agent training on May 20th. That's when we will go through the CEPD options and then the submission processes for both the fiscal agent and the CEPD administrator for the spring. So we'll go through that again on May 20th. As I stated, CEPD options, that's where you get the funding for the specific programs. At the CEPD level, you can select your CEPD options, and then that information is due to OCTE by June 5th. And then we'll finally be at the end of the year, completion entry June 12th. So the fiscal agent will need to submit to the CEPD administrator by June 12th, and then the CEPD administrator submit to OCTE by June 19th. So we just tried to kind of outline, again, all of this information is on the OCTE calendar. If you received that calendar earlier on, you have all of these dates. We just kind of want to highlight to kind of show you that the process is moving forward, to make sure that you're aware of all of the information and that you're inputting as much as you can as soon as possible. Okay, so we are done for today. This is all of the information that we have to cover for today's training. Again, if you have any technical questions, we ask that you reach out to the help desk, and that help desk is cetis.help@ptdtechnology.com. That's the email. Anytime you're in the CETIS application and you need help, please do so. If you have policy questions, we ask that you contact Dr. Valerie Milton, and her email as well as her telephone number is here on this slide. And she can answer all policy questions. So as of right now, this is all of the information for the CEPD Level 5. Again, please do not forget to utilize the knowledge base at support.cetis.com, and all of the information will be added there, and all of the resource material can be added there, or is added there. So it's there for your review. And we have our training evaluation. Once this training session ends, you will be prompted to fill out a training evaluation. We would really appreciate your responses. Diana has also dropped the training evaluation link in the chat. So if you need to leave, I'm going to stay on for a few minutes to try to answer any questions that anyone may have. But if you need to leave, you can use the link there and fill out that survey for us, and we would really appreciate it. But I'm going to stay on, and if you don't mind staying on, it's going to pop up automatically. So again, don't forget to sign up for the upcoming training, and please utilize the knowledge base. And this is the end of the training. I'm going to end here. Thank you for your time and attention, and we will see you in the next training. I'll remain on if anyone has any questions, but have a great rest of your day. Thank you.